All right, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's Mindful Moments sessions. It's an honor to be able to host these mindfulness sessions for you all. And this week, for our session, we will be talking about the mindful qualities of impermanence and beginner's mind. And specifically, we'll be focusing on the topic of mindful walking meditation, mindful walking. So as I said before, this week we're actually going to be covering two mindful qualities, beginner's mind and impermanence. And for the past few months or so, every week we've been covering one of the 10 or maybe two of the 10 qualities of mindfulness. And sometimes we had some repeats where we focused on different topics within each quality of mindfulness. But by this week is actually the last week of this 10 qualities of mindfulness series. And next week for our mindful moments session, we will begin with other topics such as the practice of 5-minute meditation. And more information is to be coming, so be sure to stay tuned. All right, so a beginner's mind is seeing things as if for the first time with openness, receptivity, and curiosity. Seeing with fresh eyes can bring back a sense of wonder and awe to people, situations, and moments that have become ordinary, which then invites gratitude and joy. And the second mindful quality we're going to be talking about today is impermanence. So impermanence reminds us that nothing stays as it is. In nature, weather, our bodies, our emotions, our political systems, or the family dynamics. So the thing to remember here is, or the lesson to be learned, is to connect, savor, and enjoy our lives as it was and as it is in each moment. All right, so we're going to be talking about walking meditation. The practice of walking meditation is basically mindfulness in motion. Walking meditation is a joyful way to practice mindfulness with movement. During mindful walking, you discover the stable feeling, the ground that is always there supporting you. So one way that we can use walking meditation to engage ourselves directly in the present, which is often a goal of meditation, to concentrate on the present moment and not let our thoughts wander, is to pay attention to how the seasons change your surroundings and change how you perceive your surroundings. So here we have a picture of basically kind of the same location in the 4 seasons, starting with spring, summer, fall, and winter. And as we can see, in spring, we have beautiful flowers on the trees, and summer, it's more green. There's a lot of greenery. The fall, we have these beautiful autumn leaves of different colors. And in the winter, the ground is covered with snow. So looking for the ways that the different seasons affect what you discover help you to train your capacity to tune in to whatever is around you. And it is an effective way to pull you out of your daydreaming, or generally just helping you to bring you into the present and be aware of your surroundings. Here's another picture of the different seasons, how the same place looks so different in each of the seasons. And even if we're not engaged directly in the experience, just from this painting, we can see how in the winter, there's a lot of snow on the ground. There's no leaves on the trees. And we can use this sort of mindset, this beginner's mindset, to look at each of the seasons. All right, so here we're going to be talking about some of the ways, or generally guidelines, that we can help us to make the best experience of our walking meditation and to stay in the present. So one thing that we can do is to find a peaceful place to walk. So for example, some places could be your local park or your neighborhood sidewalk, or just generally peaceful place. And the reason that we generally want to find a peaceful place is it's easier for our minds to settle down in places such as a nature trail in the forest, or walking by a trail by a body of water. Those are often, they have very calming and instilling effects on our mind, and it's easier to kind of shift our thoughts away from our general busy lives and enter this state of mindfulness. And another thing we can do when we're walking is to try walking slowly and mindfully. And what I mean by this is we can't really stand up right now since we're sitting. But basically what we will do, and you can keep this in mind if you happen to pick up mindful walking or walking meditation in the future, the way we do this is that we start by lifting either our right or left foot. I think we start with our right foot and then we lift our right foot with awareness, with this kind of awareness of what is around us. We lift it and we make contact with the ground first with our heel and then our toes. We inhale in this process. And then when we lift our right foot or our left foot, the other side, oops, sorry about that. When we lift our left foot and then we do the same process of making contact with the ground first with our heels and then our toes, then we exhale. So we're really engaging our contact with the ground, noticing how the ground is always there to support our foot and ourselves when we're walking, and also our breathing. And the third thing that we can do is to observe gently. So there is a difference between noticing things and thinking about things. So our goal here is to notice things and not let our surroundings kind of guide our thoughts to places that are not in the present. So an example of this could be if you're thinking about, for example, if you see an apple tree and you see the apple tree and you start to think about the ingredients to an apple pie. So this is kind of bringing our minds to somewhere not in the present, and this is not what we want to do when we're trying to practice walking meditation. So instead, what we want to do is to just acknowledge the things that we see around us. Acknowledge, for example, the summer breeze, the sunshine, and it's natural that our mind will wander, but the goal here is to catch ourselves and to realize that our mind is wandering. So ways we can kind of catch ourselves or kind of reduce the amount of wandering that our mind does is to focus on our breathing and focus on the way that our foot makes contact with the ground. Those are good methods. All right, so now that we have talked about these different methods, we are going to transition to this week's weekly mindfulness practice. But before that, as always, we're going to take 3 deep breaths to allow us to gently transition into our practice. And for this week's mindful practice, it is recommended that we do not close our eyes, and you'll see why. Because I selected this video specifically because I thought it was cool that it's possible to envision ourselves as if we're walking. And what I would like us to do is to envision ourselves as we were walking in nature in real life, and using those methods that we just talked about, seeing how we engage directly in the present with this kind of virtual experience. All right, so breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. All right, enjoy. right, so now that we are done with our weekly mindful practice, we'll move on to our discussion questions. So feel free to think about these silently. How did you feel when envisioning walking mindfully in the mindful practice that we just did? If nature is not as accessible to some of us during this pandemic, how else might we practice mindful walking? And what mindfulness skills do we use in walking meditation? So, how did I feel when envisioning walking mindfully? I felt very peaceful and relaxed. And tying that back to what we said earlier, I think the setting was really important. It would have been different if I showed you maybe a video of the city as in compared to what we just saw, where we had a body of water by the lake and generally very nice environment. And also, so when I was walking mindfully, I tried to notice and identify, just briefly notice the surroundings. For example, the purple flowers, the blue color of the lake, and the mountains in the distance, but not thinking about them. So not allowing my surroundings to direct my thoughts to somewhere other than the present. If nature is not as accessible to some of us, other ways in this pandemic, some ways that we can practice mindful walking is, as I said earlier, we can also practice this within our own homes, even in our own living rooms. And an interesting thing might be if some of you happen to have TV or just a big screen, having some of those videos like the one we just watched, and trying to envision ourselves if we were walking in nature, that might be an interesting thing to experiment with. What mindfulness skills do we use in walking meditation? Well, I think one of the most important skills, as in any type of meditation, is to be aware and be in the present. So this relates to the mindful quality of awareness, which we talked about a few weeks earlier. Other mindfulness skills can include having a beginner's mindset. So this especially applies to if we're walking in nature, I think. Having that beginner's mindset and seeing everything around you as if you were seeing it with the first time, it can help us engage more directly in the present instead of having our mind wander between the past and the future. All right, so as we wrap up the end of this session, we're going to wrap up with a quote which is related to what we talked about this week. Life is available only in the present. That is why we should walk in such a way that every step can bring us to the here and now. All right. Thank you all so much for joining me for this week's mindful session. As always, it was such an honor and a pleasure to be able to host these mindfulness sessions for you all. And I hope you all enjoyed it. Feel free to leave any feedback as always. And I hope you all have a wonderful week ahead of you. Thank you.